What's up, everybody? Here's another episode of Radio Wigwam Palangi's Studio of Rock. Today we have two guests. Now, I've never had two in the same room. Mr. James Michael and Melissa Harding, vocal coach extraordinaire, 6 a.m. production wizard. How you guys doing out there?
Doing good, Frank. How are you?
Good. Melissa, say
I
something.
just want to point out how much I love the fact that we were just chatting before we hit record, and you sounded so different. Then all of a sudden, bang! As soon as the red light went on, your voice just turned into this magic mist, like Wolf. What is it? Wolfman Jack? Remember him?
Yeah. It's on stage, man.
You got the sound, man. I always wished I had that kind of sound in my voice.
It's cool. You can attain it too. It's attainable. Even Melissa has it.
And Melissa is the person to help me obtain it if I want to, right? So
she is.
You know what? He can do all those kinds of things, but yeah, Frank, you've got some nice cool gravel going on there. I love it.
Thanks.
In fact, Frank, you'll be interested to know that most of the vocal questions that I have from Melissa recently is just about my talking voice. I'm like obsessed with my talking voice. I've always wanted to have like a really cool talking voice like you have.
Oh, okay.
And so it's like sometimes I will just call her and I'll be like, okay, so you hear how my voice is right now? You hear how I'm talking right now? Hear how weak I sound? I need to find a way to make, and I just get so frustrated because I don't like my talking voice.
Now everybody knows because we're on the air.
Well, exactly. I got nothing to hide.
Practice the old low register, the baritone, the warble and the vibrato.
Okay.
The warble and the vibrato.
Together.
That's a
Now, Melissa, how long have you been teaching? I just started taking lessons, and people can go to your website as well.
Yeah, you're a new student for me, right? And
yeah, I'm a
it's
newbie.
fun because every time, I work with somebody who's a rock singer and they know who James is and they know that I kind of worked with him, I feel like it gives me that little vouch of like, oh, she's part of our club, she can work with me and I'm a rock singer,
Well, you toured with
can
6 a.m. too. You're on the records,
Yeah.
You're a part of the 6 a.m.
Yeah, I started teaching young. I started teaching like right out the gate at 18. People were just asking for lessons. And that was during the time that as a young singer in LA, James was really training me in the studio and teaching me to sing in the studio and how to be a good, vocalist in general, just walking into a studio behind a mic. But I started teaching voice then. I just always have been training, and really going out on the road. That was my first time doing major touring as well. So really being able to put into effect a lot of the techniques that I had learned about voice and vocal recovery and vocal health and all that kind of stuff.
Classically trained with plays.
Yeah, musical theater and classically trained in voice as well. And, I think my classical voice teacher wanted me to go that way. And I kind of got tattoos and did other things.
Then you met James and you toured.
There you go, exactly.
I seen you guys on the Rockin' Derby. It's the first time I seen you guys on there because we opened the show early that day. We were the first one, and I do remember you on stage, but there was two female backup vocals, if I remember.
Yeah, there were two of us. He can speak to why they brought us more than I can, but it was a really incredibly fun job to do, and yeah, I mean it was. And I don't remember Rockin' Derby. We talked about this a little bit. I don't remember, and James, I don't know if you do, but I cannot remember what show it was.
I think that you would remember it. I honestly feel like that was the first show when I was starting to get sick, right before we did what is that? Rock on the Range.
Yeah.
So I think that it was right before that, and I think that was the first day that I went out on stage, and actually a couple of songs I needed to like drop down my voice to an octave lower just to make it through a couple of those choruses because I was really getting hit hard with whatever that bug was that I had.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't remember that on stage, so
well, good. I mean, that's kind of what you hope for, is that nobody notices, but
I did notice because we could go anywhere, the stage passes, and you could eat all day. They had a place in the back, eat all day. So I was there, I was sitting there. Megadeth's drummer was coming over. It was a new drummer, 3 days old, And I was like, who's this guy? And he's like, oh, I'm doing it for Megadeth. I was like, oh my God. But anyways, I seen Nikki Sixx backstage. He had like 6 bodyguards right off the stage. I was like, you're not even allowed back there, and he's got 6 bodyguards. My question for you is, how did you meet Nikki, and then how did this whole thing, like, how did he pick you as the man to sing all this?
Well, I met Nikki because I had signed a record deal with a company called Beyond Music back in 1999. And Beyond Music was in partnership with Motley Crue. So part of Beyond Music was this subsidiary label called Motley Records.
Okay.
So basically we became label mates. And I made this solo record back in '99 called Inhale, and the owner of the label played my record for Nikki, and it was right around the time that Nikki and Motley Crue were getting ready to make their next record. And there was, it was at a point where Tommy and he weren't seeing eye to eye on certain things, so it made the writing process for them just not something. It wasn't appealing to them, but they had schedules to stick to, and they needed songs for this record.
Saints of Los Angeles, I think it was.
This was actually the record before Saints of Los Angeles.
Okay.
This was a record called New Tattoo. So that's when Nikki and I met. We wrote a few songs. We wrote several songs for New Tattoo. And that's when we established a really good writing rapport together. Saints of Los Angeles came next, but that was several years later, and that was one that I actually fully produced and mixed as well. So by then, my relationship not only with Nikki but with the rest of the band had solidified, and it was a great time. It was a fun time when we made Saints of Los Angeles, because that marked the first time that all original members had gotten together and recorded together. Since back in the day. So it was quite a pivotal time for them, and an exciting time for me to be involved with them. So that's really how we got started together.
That's cool. That was actually the first Crue record I had, was New Tattoo. I don't know if that was good or bad, but I remember a song, something alligator in it. I don't know if you wrote that one. Hey there, hey alligator or something. I was like, okay.
I can't remember all of the songs on there. I think I wrote about 6 of them.
I could tell it was a different drummer though. I really could.
That's right. That was Randy Castillo, actually, was who has since passed, and we miss him dearly in the music industry. But yeah, that was an interesting time. It was not. It was very, very different making the New Tattoo record than it was making Saints of Los Angeles, because of what I described. Because during Saints of Los Angeles, there was this sense that they were all getting back together and making history to a degree. And I think that we made a really brilliant record that kind of celebrated what they had created over the years.
Yeah, I agree. Melissa, how you doing over there?
I'm great. You know what, James? I worked for you as your assistant when you made that record. Do you remember?
That's right. And you know what was really cool about Melissa and I working together, whether she was my assistant or whether she was my coach or whether she, my backup singer, or, I mean, she's been all of those. And what was really great, that was actually what was really great about it, is that, I mean, even to this day, just to be able to lean on Melissa to get just world-class vocals done on any record at any time, just literally by having her pop over to the studio or by being able to send her files, it's just been a game changer for me. Because the neat thing about Melissa is that she can really shape her voice to do just about anything. Kind of the way that I am too. We're both kind of chameleons when it comes down to the way that we vocalize. Sometimes that's a good thing. As in this case, when I can just lean on her to deliver really any type of vocal, whether it's a country vocal or a rock vocal or a metal vocal.
That's a lot of pressure, Melissa. A lot of pressure.
But it's fun.
He's taught me how to do it. He's really taught me how to do it. And I remember that when you were making Saints of Los Angeles, I remember I was like I lived in Santa Monica at the time, I think still. And I get this call and it was like, can you come over? And I was like, why? And you were like, I need like literally 30 minutes of vocals done, but it's on the Motley Crue record. And I was like, I'm headed that way. Like, it's so exciting because it was always this random yeah, I cannot say no. It was like just an opportunity. I was like, yeah, what could he need me to do? But that was what was so fun, was I never quite knew what you were going to ask me to do, but I knew I would always learn something, how to play with my voice a bit, you know. It was really fun.
And that's what's so fun about working with people that have such versatile voices, is that it's just a blank canvas. So whatever it is you're looking for, I mean, there are times, several times, where I would have her come in and do vocals, and I was looking for a real operatic, you know, big chorus with operatic vocals, and no problem. She just turns on that thing, and the next thing you know, you've got that operatic vocal going on. Or
from Rise. Rise is like the highest one I think you've done. And Will Not Go Quietly is my favorite song that you guys wrote.
Really?
That's a cool. Oh yeah, I love the guitar work in it. DJ, I have DJ Ashba's what do you call it? Wah pedal down here.
Oh, those are great wah.
I love it because I'm like, I need something that turns off by itself, please. I cannot keep doing that.
That's a great wah pedal. Anyone that's looking for a wah pedal, that's the one to get, man. He put a lot of thought into that, and he made it really, really studio friendly, but also great for live performances.
Yep. Mine just needs some WD-40 and ready to go. It's got a little squeaking to it. But yeah, it's cool. I'm like under this desk here. I have my whole pedal board, and I always keep it underneath here. So I feel like when I'm doing anything, I got the pedals right at my disposal, ready, easy to go. But and Melissa, have you trained any other bands on the road? I've never asked you that too in between.
Oh, you know, I am working with a couple other rock singers that are just out in the industry, like people like you that are they're coming on their way up and doing it and building their careers right now. I know a lot of other rock singers, and that's kind of what I've been working on as well, is just kind of getting back into, you know, as a singer myself, coaching's always been kind of something else that I do. But because I trained James on the road and was kind of more actively his coach on the road, I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed kind of worrying about what he really needed to do and figuring out how to help him stay super, super healthy, singing such epically athletic songs. And that's something I'm good at doing, is helping maybe certain singers that they haven't been raised with those sorts of techniques, but they really could benefit from those sorts of techniques. you know, to any singers, you know, that kind of come my way that are in that industry, there's kind of a myth in the rock industry that you don't need any training. And my thought is, but if you get some training, you'll be able to do it a whole hell of a lot longer.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting about that, Frank, and this is just a little plug for Melissa, is that I've worked with a lot of vocal coaches. I've worked with some of the best in the industry, and and the one thing that I always found was there was a language barrier, and the language barrier was really based on the fact that, for as experienced as they were, and as many, you know, rock stars and pop artists that they've worked with, they didn't actually have the on stage, night after night, what this is really like experience. And so
that's why I've never worked with any either.
Right. So there was a language barrier, and and that's what I found Melissa was able to gap, because she has been on stage with me performing these things. So we were able to speak that kind of that same language. And sometimes it's a very desperate, freaked out, oh my God, you got to help me type of language that isn't necessarily what some of these, you know, more refined instructors are even able to speak. So I found that I was able to communicate my concerns to her, and she was able to understand them because of her stage experience, and that cut out a lot of the frustration for me, and we just got right down to the point where we were speaking the right language and we were fixing things with my voice. So that was something that that I found was unique to Melissa's techniques.
And that was on the first tour, you said, too? The very first tour you blew out in like half of it or something?
The very first tour, she was not my coach during the very first
I was your assistant.
She was my assistant.
Okay, because I did see that at SPAC in New York here.
But, you know, because she was my assistant, she was able to be out on the road with me and see what I went through and see just those terrifying moments where I was, you know, where I was scared to death that something was going wrong or that I was not going to be able to deliver. And so she was able to kind of absorb all of that stuff. And then by the time she was actually doing coaching, you know, all of those things had made an impression on her, and she was able to help me break through them as we continued working together.
Yeah. That's great for you to step out of yourself, you know, because you sing, you write music too, and to kind of throw yourself in someone else's body, sort of, and kind of just analyze everything. And that's tough. It's tough.
It's really hard to be a singer, you know, and it's and Frank, you're a guitarist and you play like lots of instruments, just like James. The voice is the hardest instrument. I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah.
It is the hardest instrument to play.
You can't get rid of it. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't
put it
off
in
to try to change the strings, you know.
Yeah.
What'd you say, James?
I was just saying, yeah, you can't put your voice in a case at the end of the night and just go out and enjoy yourself. You bring it with you everywhere you go. So, you know, that's one of the challenges. But boy, there's nothing more exciting than when you have done the work, you've put the work in, and you know your voice so well, and you've eliminated most of those daily concerns because you're well trained and you're well prepared. There are few things more exciting than standing off stage and knowing that you're going to go out there and just kill it. That's an exciting.
You don't have to worry. Yeah. I think that's my biggest thing as a singer. Guitar wise, I don't care. I go out there, I'll play whatever. I could be half dead and play guitar.
Yeah.
Singing is a whole other thing, and it's and I feel it sometimes. Like, you ever felt like halfway in a set, you're like, oh damn, I don't know. I know the songs that are coming, and we'll see if my voice lasts, you know, or something weird's gonna happen. You just know it. You know, the smell of the venue. Sometimes you're outside and everyone's smoking, and you're like, because I have asthma, so I'm like dying. And
it's everything. Everything affects it.
Yeah.
Everything about your behavior and what you're around.
Diet,
I had another
everything.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Melissa and I talk about this all the time, is that there is never that perfect night where everything's lined up and the environment is great and you're feeling great. I mean, maybe once every 100 or 200 gigs, you might have a night that comes close to that.
Yeah.
But most of the time, you're figuring out how to deliver a 100% performance when you're feeling about 78%.
Yeah.
That is typical for us singers. And we just have to know that and be okay with that and realize that you're always dealing with some type of environmental or physical thing that is going, this doesn't quite feel right. I don't know how the show's going to be tonight.
Yeah.
But eventually you just go, eventually you're okay walking on stage with that at that 76%, feeling.
Yeah.
And going, I'm going to go kill it. I'm going to go give it the best 76% I've ever given in my life.
It's not bad. Not bad. Do you get where it's like know the part that's gonna cause you trouble in a certain song, and you almost like dread getting to it? You know, based off the day.
That's a great question, and I would never allow a moment like that to find me on stage.
Okay.
I would never allow myself to go on stage without the certainty that I can get through this somehow. So that's what rehearsals are for, you know. And you push yourself, you figure out where your limitations are, you figure out where you can shine, you figure out where you can breathe, you figure out all that stuff, what you're going to say, how you're going to talk to the audience, how often you're going to talk, what energy level you're going to talk with, because all of those things make a huge difference.
Yep. You pretty much answered all my questions on that front. I had a whole bunch of stuff written down. Is right out the window.
Well, that's the thing is that, that's the thing. I think what you said is so important, James, that it's that thing of eliminating those fear-based thinking things while you're on stage. And that's why it's so important to answer questions about things that are challenging. And that was the big thing for 6 a.m. songs, was like, that first tour you guys did, like, you were never planning to sing that stuff live. It was just sort of a side band, and then you're presented with that. And it really does become, okay, my job is to get out there and know how to handle these things. So that is now my work, is figuring out how to handle it. And even if you wrote it, like, it doesn't mean that you don't have to. It's one thing to do it in the studio. It's a totally other thing to do it live.
That's right, Frank. And that's right. And it kind of comes back to what I said about, about never really feeling better than 76%. I mean, that's just kind of an arbitrary number I'm throwing out there.
Yeah.
But the point being is that because there are always going to be all of these other factors that affect your performance that day, eliminate all questions during rehearsals. Don't you just get it so that it's a perfect show, so you have no questions, no insecurities, because on the day of the show, you're always going to have something that just puts a dent in your plans.
Yep. A bad sound guy, or
yes,
somebody that says, if you play a minute longer on stage, I will take your stuff mid-song and throw it off the stage. I've had that happen too, and I was like, looked at the guy and I go, "You better not do that. You're paying for all my stuff." I ain't doing
right,
it.
exactly.
I ain't doing it. I was like, okay. Now, anyone now, they can contact you, Melissa, for vocal lessons, and we have the Songwriter Safe Place once a month. Singers come together.
Safe Place, yeah. So we've been doing this new group, and it really is designed for vocalists. It's a monthly meeting. And I announce it on my Instagram, and James we just have these awesome conversations. Everybody missed you, Frank, last time.
I was shooting a scary movie.
I know.
A horror movie.
A horror film.
I'm trying to finish it up.
Frank is shooting a horror film today.
What I love about the Singer's Safe Place, and it's absolutely something that when I started touring with 6 a.m. many years ago, I would have killed to have some type of forum like the Singer's Safe Place, where a bunch of us singers from all different walks of life, all different levels of success, all different levels of vocal ability, I'm assuming. And we all just get together. Well, you've been there, Frank, and we talk about whatever was relevant this week in our lives. And quite often it's very, very interesting. I've been in the recording studio recently, so I've had a lot of questions and thoughts to bring to the conversations, and so does everybody else. And it's just a great forum for us singers to be able to voice concerns, ask questions, pick brains, or give testimonials just based on what's going on in our lives that week. So it's a wonderful forum, and I love it. I never miss a single one.
I was going to say, too, I think I left you an audio message on Instagram that you are the only singer that I know that pretty much has done that. That, it's like, he's worked with Motley Crue and everything, and you think, no, man, he's not going to hang around for 2 hours talking to everybody. He's not going to do an interview. Well, come on, man.
You know what? I mean, I appreciate you saying that, but the reality is this. I'm going to be reaching out to some of my colleagues, other rock stars and singers of other bands, because I know that they will love these conversations.
I hope they do. I really do.
They're simple. They're honest. And I mean, I just know from being on the road with all these singers, I know that they're all looking for some type of, support group, because support group is the wrong word, but it is kind of a support group.
Yeah,
people don't understand the challenges and the insecurities that us singers have. Now, I don't want to just sit here and feel sorry for myself. That's not what this is about. It's about engaging in really great conversation where something might spark a new idea for you, and then you'll just go and try it, try something that somebody said. That's what it's about, just trying new things.
I was pumped up last time I left. I was like, I forgot what I did, but I was like, I got to go do something now, which is cool. And it's like, especially with you, like how, like if you live in a small town in some state, you can't just like, I don't somehow meet somebody like you and then ask a question, and you know what I mean, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So
About learning from each
it's
other.
great.
And
Yeah.
James is a great teacher. James is a great teacher. I'm so thankful that he wants to come be involved in these conversations. But I realize, you know, he loves to ask questions and listen to what people have to say, because we do learn from each other,
Yeah.
even if we're in completely different worlds. If it's a musical theater singer or a rock singer or country singers tour, jazz singers tour, we all know what it's like to be out on the road
Yeah.
dealing with the pressures of touring or whatever it might be. So we can all relate. It doesn't matter whether we're in the musical theater industry or the rock industry. We can all relate to what that feeling is like of dealing with your voice.
Yes.
That's what it's about.
Melissa, plug your website right now and
Oh, melissahardingmusic.com. You can find out stuff about lessons there. The Singer Safe Place, we meet once a month, and it's always up there in my group offerings, so you can find it. But really, follow me on Instagram, Melissa Harding Voice. I'm always talking about voice stuff there, and TikTok, in fact.
TikTok, gotta jump on the wagon.
Yeah, I'm on the
I have mixed feelings about TikTok, but
I do
Don't
too.
we all? Don't we all?
well, here, I try to talk about some different things here, and everyone knows it's more of a chat. This show, it's not a formal interview. Like, where'd you start singing? When did you do that? And blah, blah, blah. So my question for you, that is, I guess, the formal question, and it's something that I haven't seen a band do. Is you released Prayers for the Damned and the Blessed pretty close to each other, because that was the last time I went to a real music store, bought the CD, and seen a sticker, and it said, wait for, like, in a few months there's another CD coming out.
Yeah.
I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
And
I got both.
Yeah. And it's funny because about halfway through that year, we all looked at each other and said, what the heck were we thinking, man? It was so tough. That was a fun but very, very tough year, because we were also planning touring during it too. So we thought, what a great idea to make a double record, release them, kind of stagger them, release one, be out on the road, release another one. And it was a great idea. At that point, because of streaming and because of all of the changes that were happening in the music industry, everyone was trying to just find some new way to do things, something that was a little bit different that could maybe give your band an edge,
Yeah. Yep.
And I think that was our thought process. And we modeled it after some other bands that had done similar things, and it seemed to work well for them. But, anytime you do something like that, timing is everything. And I think that, you had mentioned when we were talking earlier that We Will Not Go Quietly was your favorite 6 a.m. song. And
it was a live music video too, I think. It was like
we did a live
clips
music video, which was a lot of fun.
Yep.
But I kind of feel like that song, when we released that as a single, I kind of feel like we stumbled over ourselves a little bit because of the timing of those two albums. And I think that because of the similarity in the names, Prayers for the Blessed and Prayers for the Damned, I'm not sure that people quite understood what the differences were, and that they were two actually fully, completely different albums. Okay. So I think that the messaging got a little bit confused there, but nonetheless, they were both great records.
I viewed it as a part one, part two type thing. Maybe if the actual number was on there, like PT1, and
that's exactly what it was. And that was our goal. And it was really just a way to put out a bunch of music in a short period of time and go do some touring. Looking back on it, I would never make a double album in that short of a period of time again, because it was incredible. I had a little music studio set up in the back of our tour bus, and I was mixing songs for Prayers for the Blessed while we were out touring, performing songs from Prayers for the Damned. And it was just this crazy kind of chaos that happened, where I was sitting back in the back with headphones trying to get these songs mixed. And then as soon as we got off the road, I was back in the studio and, putting final touches on the mixes. So
poor ears.
It was crazy. It was crazy, but it was a great experience. I wouldn't change it for anything, but I wouldn't do it that way again.
Yeah. Now, are you in a home studio now?
Like
I am.
18-hour days. You were doing like 18-hour days in the studio.
Yeah,
I'll never forget that. It was nonstop. The rest of the band, they play their parts, but then he would be the one producing, left alone in the studio just for hours and hours and hours.
Studio rat.
Yeah,
that's what I call it.
It was, it was a lot of fun to have that many canvases going at the same time. I keep using the artist references, but to have that many songs going at the same time and being able to color each of them in a different way, and it was a lot of fun. That was a fun palette to work with. But boy, yeah, just exhausting. Absolutely exhausting.
Well, at least now you have a home studio. You can do it whenever you want to.
Exactly.
Gear wise, what do you use for like preamps, and are you all digital guy, a little analog? What do you got going on?
I have some very, very nice outboard gear. I have some Neves and some SSL compression and LA2As and 1176s, a lot of originals. So I've really built up my outboard gear over the years, because recording to digital, as you know, it has its limitations, and so you want to make sure that, like you asked about pre's, everything going in is going to color and affect what ultimately comes out. So I've got some nice outboard gear. I do all of my mixing internally now, so I'm all in the box as far as mixing goes.
That's what I do too.
Yeah, it's come along so far that I don't really, I always like to spread things out on an SSL and do a real analog mix, but we don't have budgets for that anymore. And in the end, people don't really appreciate the difference anymore. It's not their job to appreciate the difference, but us gearheads can still appreciate it.
They're left on the cell phones. And I don't know if you do, but Chris Lord Algae, he's like, you always got to have that small boom box.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I got one right here, and I tell you, because I'm hearing things, this is awesome, right? I throw it to the boom box and I go, why is that guitar like way up here? You just don't hear it until you hear something like cheap through it.
Yeah, I reference things on my iPhone now. I still do car references and the small boom, all of that stuff. But nowadays I feel like we should primarily be mixing for iPhones or for phones in general, which is a very sad thing to have to say, but it's true. For the most part, we've got to make sure stuff translates to our iPhones. We just have to. And quite often, as I'm sure you've found, you have to tuck your vocals a little bit for iPhones, because the iPhone just takes that vocal and pulls it way out front. So you got to be careful about that.
That's interesting. And I'm old school. I like that the Thunder bass. The bass that you heard on the Kiss records and Metallica, and you don't hear that as much anymore. So whatever I work on, Melissa heard my whole catalog from 10 years.
Oh, cool.
And I don't know if she could hear some of that. I didn't do all the work, but the last couple stuff I did.
Musicianship going on that record. There's some fast drums. He's quite a guitarist. Yeah, it's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You probably know some of the people I work with, but that's another conversation. Those guys are awesome though. But that's like being a solo artist. I don't know if you consider you more of a solo artist with your own stuff, but it's nice working with a bunch of people that way.
It is. I did a podcast a few years ago. We did like 30 episodes, and I had a lot of fun because I was able to interview some people that I found very interesting. And I was interviewing a songwriter, a very, very successful songwriter. And I asked him, how do you stay relevant? Because the music itself is changing so rapidly that it really become quite hard to keep up. And he just said, without even hesitating, he said, collaboration. He goes, that's the only way to stay relevant. Just collaborate, collaborate, collaborate. So I'm doing a solo, I'm doing a project right now that's just me, and I'm getting ready to release some new music, and I'm collaborating on everything just because I find it more interesting. You know, I know what I'm going to do. I can't surprise myself anymore. I know what kind of melody lines I'm going to come up with. I'm more interested in what you're going to come up with and how I can adapt to that. So I love the collaboration, and I just it keeps me motivated, and it does keep me current. It helps me keep a very fresh and relevant mindset to what's going on.
Yeah. That's a whole conversation I could go into for an hour on another day of all the production stuff. Well, it's like, I don't know. I could say that we all had the same gray panels everywhere. Notice I get the panel, like a black ceiling on the. Yeah. I see them. Now that was you donated that to her or something, right? Is that what you said?
Oh yeah, that's right.
From the original studio or something.
He helped me. Right. He has lots of this kind of stuff, you know. So when I finally got a little studio in LA, I was like, what do I do for some soundproofing or whatever? And he gave me some cool, what are these called?
Diffusers?
Yeah, that's just like an absorber and a diffuser. They're just sound panels. They do different things, but for the most part, we're just trying to absorb some of the live, echoey, stuff going on in your room.
They're so nice. I think they look nice.
They do look cool. I had them up in an apartment in between when we were trying to remodel this whole place, and it did help a lot. I had like 9 of them in there. I couldn't put them on the walls, but I just put them all on the floor around it. Yeah. Because sometimes those apartments, you could hear like people talking next door, and it was bad. I'm like, I'm never going to be able to do anything. I'm doing interviews, and all of a sudden you hear this and dogs barking and.
Right.
Excuse everything in the background, folks.
And those panels, as you know, those panels don't do anything to keep sound from the outside coming in. Yeah. But what they do is they control the sound within the room so that your microphones don't have to work as hard. And by doing that, you're probably less likely to pick up sound from outside. So it's an important part of being able to even do what you're doing, like with this with the podcasting or the interviews and stuff. You can't have a bunch of echoes going on. It's very distracting.
No, it's my last guy I interviewed. He was outside a mall doing his with his iPhone. It wasn't too bad, but you could hear the trucks and all that kind of stuff. But he was kind of encaved in this cement corner. Yeah. Somehow, somewhere, so the wind didn't hit it.
Oh my God!
So that was cool.
I just did. We just released 6 a.m. just released our greatest hits package several months ago, and so there was.
I was going to ask that. Just seen that.
Oh yeah, there was a period of time where I was doing a lot of interviews, podcasts, radio interviews, and stuff like that. And for some reason, I was doing a lot of the international ones, and so number one, you're dealing with the different time zones and stuff like that. But I did one interview with a gentleman, bless his heart. I think it was in Italy, and he was just sitting at a cafe, which looked beautiful. I just loved, doing this interview with him because it was just this beautiful, village and a cafe, and you could, the stuff that you could see in the background was beautiful. But it was so noisy, and all he had was that little earbud microphone.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I really couldn't understand him because his English was not great. Oh man, that was a tough interview because all I was hearing was clanking dishes and buses going by and just all of those.
You're smiling. Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah, that was great.
So I have no idea how it turned out, but yeah, I just kept a smile on my face, and that's what you got to do.
That's the whole question interviews where you're like, when do you have a new record coming out? Yeah, and you wait because you can't. It's tough. You can't hear people sometimes. You don't want to be rude, but you're like, yup. And it's so.
That's right.
Now, Melissa, do you sing on other people's projects? Like if they wanted to reach out to you for vocal work?
Yeah, sometimes I do. It kind of depends on the project and just what I'm in the middle of. But I got some work on one of James's songs coming up at some point here, so I still do that kind of work with different people.
You did the 30 Seconds to Mars album, didn't you?
Yeah, I sang on a 30 Seconds to Mars album, you know,
Wow.
like when random stuff comes up, if it comes my way and it's something that it works in my life, I always will jump
You sung
in,
on
you
a
know,
you
and
sung on a ton of albums that I've produced, so I'm trying to
yeah,
think of.
basically all the stuff you've produced through the years that you've needed female vocals on, I've come running to, you know. So, but I've been the most loyal to working with James through the years, just because he's always kept me busy, because he's always been in the middle of so many different things. And a lot of the work I used to do for you back in the day was demo singing. So I used to
Yeah.
like sing a lot of demos for him. If he was pitching something to a Kelly Clarkson or a Pink or someone, he would have me come in and do that vocal first. So we haven't done as much of that lately, but it was always really fun to do any of that kind of stuff. Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Is that weird to never know that it's not going to be released with your vocal on it?
Not really. No, no. It's always fun. I mean, I always said that to him. Like, is it weird to know that this song may not get to that person? And like, honestly, I
Yeah.
can tell the people that are James fans, I have sung countless songs that are brilliant songs that he's written that you have never heard.
Okay.
There are so many. That's just true when you're a songwriter.
The
Like,
ultimate B-side.
Yeah, that's just the nature of the business. You know, it can be frustrating, you know, because you have just hundreds of songs that don't get the exposure that certain ones do. But you get used to that after a while. I mean, there's only so much room out there for successful songs, you know. I mean, there's more room now because of all the different platforms, all the different streaming platforms and stuff, but you just get used to the fact that just every once in a while you get that one song that hits, and then you ride that wave. And you just have to fight off those feelings of frustration for the other songs, because number one, it doesn't, just because it didn't get cut this year doesn't mean it's not going to get cut next year or the year after that or even 10 years. I just finished recording a song that's 12 years old. Me and my buddy Blair Daly finished. We started writing it 12 years ago. We finished writing it last week. We're like, well, that only took 12 years and 2 hours.
Wow.
You know, it's like,
is it similar or is it completely different?
Oh, it's pretty similar to the original.
Oh, okay.
It's just you know, we just kind of looked at, okay, so what stopped us from finishing it that back then? Oh, let's just conquer that right now. And it's fucking awesome song. Sorry for my language. It's an amazing song.
Was it always in your head, that sort of thing? You're like, I'm gonna go back and redo it someday, whether because you like it or.
There's so many unfinished songs out there. And the great thing about my buddy Blair is every once in a while, he'll just send me a bunch of MP3s of our writing sessions.
Yep.
So I'll be, and so that's what he did with this one. I'm like, oh man, this was a great song. Why didn't we finish this? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, let's finish it now. So that's the beauty of it, is that this is just ever evolving, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm releasing a song coming up soon that I released 10 years ago. And I'm just releasing a new and different version of it. So why not? Who cares?
Yeah. That's the big question.
All the old songs. I have requests actually for some of your old songs. Like, Only Get So Far needs to be out. You know, like there were some really great songs. I'm literally thinking I have like 5 in my head that you should bring back. Anyway, go ahead, Frank.
I was gonna say, everyone out there, before we go here, thanks for tuning in here. Only here on Radio Wigwam. You can hear us Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. UK time. There's reruns. This is all going to be on our social media as well. Shoot, I was going to say something and I forgot. What did you last say, Melissa? Remind me of it. Unfinished songs.
Yeah.
I had a song I wrote 20 years ago, and it was just because it's an instrumental, but it's one that I loved. So that's why I asked you that question, because in my head it was, I love this, but it never seen the light of day. It never really got its day, sort of.
Yeah.
And that's why I redid it. And the secret thing, as I'm going to tell folks out there, is they don't realize that some of these songs aren't being written right now. They're written, like you said, years ago, left on paper that you forget in some box. And then you pull it out like an antique dinosaur bone.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, wow, What is this?
But now you have the advantage of this whole new mind. Your mind is completely different than it was 20 years ago when you did it. So now you've got the advantage and you've got the perspective on it where you can probably make decisions about it so easy because you're not emotionally attached to it anymore. So you can be like, yeah, that chorus line was just not that great. Let's get rid of it. Whereas you would have clung on to that chorus line 20 years ago because you knew it was the best line in the song back then.
Yes, I would have.
And now you realize that it's not.
Well, that's the thing.
Like, oh, sorry, Frank. I was going to say with 6 a.m., even Heroin Diaries, a lot of those songs people don't realize.
Those were songs from my solo record. Like 4 of the songs on that record were from my solo record years before. Van Nuys, which used to be called Burbank, Permission, Dead Man's Ballet, and there's another one on there too that were just songs that were sitting around.
And you used Nikki's lyrics, right? That were written before.
No, those were all my lyrics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then on songs moving forward, Nikki and I wrote together. We loved writing lyrics together. It's so much fun writing lyrics with him because we come at things from such different angles and we complement each other very well. And I'm always excited to get his take on something. You know, we've always enjoyed that process a lot.
Yeah, say if you can find somebody that you write with, that you gel, whether you're alike or not, it's if it works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Something magical can happen sometimes. But the whole gear and the production thing, I'd love to have a short conversation some other time about that. But that because I know I was gonna say out there, James does all of his own stuff. The records that you hear, you've mixed and you've recorded and stuff like that. Not a lot of people do that as well. And that's really what I'm into past, I don't know, 10 years or so. But it's because you guys are signed to a label, obviously, and a lot of labels don't like the artist to mix their own stuff. That's what I was going to ask you before we go is, was that ever a problem? Be like, well, no, we just want to bring this other producer in and then mix this and we want to send it out here.
No, you know what? That's a really good question. And had we been on any other label, that would have been a battle.
Yeah.
But our label was extremely supportive of me doing all that. We just, our label just looked at us. They go, that's something that's working. Let's not get in the way. Let's just let them keep doing that. For the most part, there were times where we butted heads about certain things, but when a label gives you that kind of freedom, it's usually a really good thing. Now, that being said, I should also say, Frank, that there are occasions where, looking back on things, I would have liked to hear a different mixer's viewpoint. I would have liked to hand that stuff off and have them mixed by somebody else or even produced by somebody else. But I'm saying that in hindsight because I would find it interesting because I would learn, anytime that I've had other mixers mix things that I've produced, I learn a ton. Usually, sometimes it's stuff to do and sometimes it's stuff not to do,
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you learn, expand, and it gives you some other ideas that you've never maybe thought of. Like, I didn't think of putting that much reverb underneath the snare there and this, and you really, like, I'm not a reverb snare guy, whatever it is, you know what I mean?
But then the next 5 songs you do, there's just way too much reverb on your snare because you've overdone it. Yeah, we all do that too.
Too much compression.
Right, exactly.
Someday we'll have to have the EQ versus compression
works,
talk.
A lot works better, right?
Yes.
If I turn it up to 5 and it sounds good, then if I turn it up to 10, it should sound twice as good, right?
Mm-hmm. That's kind of how I started. But I started really quick. I started with a Fostex tape recorder.
Me too.
Then a CD to CD mastering deck.
Oh yeah.
And I had a board, like a Behringer board, and then I went to a Boss.
Do you remember when the CDs, those blank CDs that you bought cost $15 a piece?
What?
You probably don't remember that.
No, it was probably before my time.
My very first CD burner was a 4-time CD burner, and it cost me, I think, $1,500 for a CD burner, which you can now buy for. I mean, I don't even know if you can buy them anymore. But
oh my gosh!
And blank CDs cost $15 a piece.
Unbelievable.
I'm old, dude.
Well, it's like I'm on the cusp. I grew up with this technology, so it's always interesting. And I have a bit old school, and then there's the digital. But do you remember the Boss, like the digital recorders before there was computers? They actually sounded really good. And then I would like transfer the main file to like my computer that only could hold like 4 tracks.
Yeah.
And that was cool.
Yeah, I started off on a Fostex 4-track cassette.
That's what I had. Yeah,
it was like a normal, and I loved that thing, man. It was so cool because you'd put a track down, and then you'd put another track down, and then you'd bounce those 2 over to one, and then
That's what I was going to ask
now
you.
You've got
Did you ever
3
bounce
tracks
them?
again. Oh yeah, and then you'd record 3 more tracks. You'd bounce those over to another. Now you can do 2 more tracks, and so ultimately you could get yourself 6 or 8 tracks going on.
I would do all the drums through the Behringer board into one track, and it would sound like a garbage can.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, all right. But the guitars, I don't know what it is, but I think guitars recorded analog sound really, really good.
Oh my God, dude. It's night and day. And this kind of goes back to the beginning when we were asking about whether I do everything in the box or not. I do mix completely in the box now, but boy, when I do occasionally spread stuff back out on an analog console, guitars, night and day.
Yeah.
I spend 60% of my time working on guitar tones in the digital format.
Oh, okay.
I would spend 5% of my time working on guitar tones in the analog format. They're just so much easier to get sounding good. They're so much easier to get sitting in the mix properly without having to do a bunch of EQ, without having to do much compression at all. Yeah, it makes a big difference.
You lose that real low end from the amp. You lose that.
You lose the air movement. It just doesn't move air the same.
The technical geeks out there, 80 to 300 range, that some of it's garble in there, but a lot of the digital plugins don't have that push.
They don't.
From it. But I don't know. Like I said, we can go into gear talk all day, but I appreciate you guys.
I'll talk for hours about gear.
We'll do that another time.
Yeah.
Swap ideas here.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you guys coming on here, everybody. I know my fans were talking about it, like you're gonna talk to. Oh my God, that's awesome. We're gonna listen to that show.
Oh, cool.
I was like, thanks. Maybe you can listen to some of the other ones too. But we're doing good on Mixcloud. Thanks everybody for listening, because we were numbered 94 on the hard rock charts on Mixcloud the other day, which I don't care. I'll take top 100 out of anything. So that's cool. I almost was like, it's the show. I don't know what to say anymore, because sometimes I just do music playlists and you run out of music to put on, and I'm like, I don't know the show anymore. But there's a little revitalization here going on, so I don't like it a lot.
Good. Well, let's do another one and talk gear.
Yes, it'll be all a gearhead show, which I'll have to
bore everybody.
I will skip out on that show because I don't know what y'all are talking about, but that's fine. That's great.
All right. Well, you know what the volume knob is. That's step number 1.
That's right.
I do know that.
So everybody out there, make sure you go grab a copy of the new greatest hits. I believe it's on CD as well on Amazon. I think I see that.
Yeah. It should be everywhere. We actually did it on vinyl too, which was pretty cool. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
So make sure you pick that up, everybody.
It's always putting stuff out on vinyl. It just makes it seem, that's what I grew up with was vinyl. So I still get the hairs still stand up on my arms when I open up vinyl and be like, man, I made this. This is cool.
Yeah. What about you, Melissa?
Oh yeah, definitely the vinyl.
She's on
Definitely.
vinyl.
I have one 6 a.m. album on vinyl from one of ours that.
I
did.
No. We did Prayers for the Damned vinyl, but we did both. We did both.
You did do Vols.
I don't know if I have both, but that was a very cool moment opening that up on vinyl.
Yeah, I seen it in FYE when it came out. The old FYEs.
Yeah. But I love playing vinyls as well. It's my favorite way to listen in our house. We have a lot of old music too. So
see, I never quite got that. I was a cassette and CD guy, so I was like, I'm still stuck on that. I did have a record player at some point, but not that I didn't get it. It just I didn't, I guess, feel it the same as what you guys are saying. I'm always like, give me the CD. You know what I
Someday,
mean?
Frank.
Yeah,
Someday.
but at least you have that. You've got that cassette experience, so you can appreciate a good analog cassette still.
Yes, and they sound real warm. Besides the hiss.
That's right.
But they're good. Thanks, everybody. Make sure you tune in every Tuesday night here, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. UK time for Palangi Studio of Rock. We'll always have some interviews on here. All the artists are kind of on tour right now, so we're going to have, if you're listening, we got 2 in August here. And I don't know where you are out there from the country, because you have UK, you have Canada, you got USA. Thanks for tuning in anywhere. Make sure you hit us up on social media and let us know who you want to talk to next. Who would you like to get to kind of have this up close personal chat here? And what do you want to hear on my radio show when I play radio music? I really want to know. So anything hard rock metal. Sometimes I do like 80s themed shows, and then like I thought about doing an all album show too. So maybe I'll take your greatest hits with this and just slam it, before and after.
Yeah.
It'll be all 6 a.m. Maybe one Motley Crue. Maybe I'll throw that in there.
I love it.
Maybe the tattoo song, or the alligator one. I don't know.
I don't remember the alligator. Now I got to go back and look at that album.
There's something like that. I'd have to message you instantly. I just can't think of it right now.
Yeah.
I'm just like, well, okay. But thanks, guys, very much. I appreciate it. And make sure you tune in soon. All right, Dan. See you guys.